Welcome back to the shop. So the high voltage 12 build continues. Pulled the stab out early this morning. Got really nice. It weighs 1.5 ounces and is very rigid. You just got to add the tips now. So it'll probably get up to about 1.7 ounces. I will add a piece of carbon, 1mm carbon rod here, just to really stiffen that up and keep it indented. So, what else did I do? I glued up the push rod, or at least half the push rod for the bell crank. To the Bellcrank, this is a Dan Winship Bellcrank that I'm going to use. So Dan makes some really nice stuff. It's carbon, it's pretty light, it meets all the requirements. All right, so now we're going to get going. So today, I'm going to look to set the Bellcrank mount and go in the wing. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so first thing we're going to do is I want to trim up the edge and make sure I get a perfect mate. So what I have is a foam block that's perpendicular to the table. So what I do is take a triangle, and that's perfectly 90 degrees to the table. So what we'll do is I'll put some sticky back paper on it and hang it over on the, hold this down nice like that. And if you look, you can even see it. It's not, I can have a gap at the top. What I'm going to do is just going to go like that, we'll stand it in. So let me get a piece of sticky back. How long I can you want. This happens to be a 2-pound block of foam I have laying around. Anything will work as long as it's parallel to your flat surface. I'm sorry, perpendicular. So what you do is I just lock it in the cradle with my hand on it. Just taking my time. Now what I'll do is the other side. So here's what I'm getting at. The fit up is not perfect. There's a gap open in the top. The other thing is you don't want to lose. I'll just mark it. I leave myself a little reference line here. See if I have a better one that depends on her. This is just so you don't lose the 90 degrees. And right now, that's pretty close to 90. That's just a reference so I don't start losing it. Yeah, this one needs a little more sanding, it looks like. I'm going to sand this side in. For a bigger workshop, it's helpful. Yeah, that's pretty good that side. Now, now, I'm pretty sure I should have a good fit up here. Even better one. Yeah, look at that. See, there's no gap here at all. Taking a few minutes, just doing that ensures it to be perfectly. Got a nice gap here. There's not a giant gap, and the glue will actually work together. Now, that's done. All right, so how am I going to mount the Bellcrank? Well, what I came up with was something a little bit different that I haven't done in the past. But this is half-inch carbon point, point, I'm sorry, 4 millimeter, 0.4 millimeter wall. It's very thin walled carbon rectangle or square. And what I did was I just sanded it in because the spars are on a little bit of an angle. I took into account for it. But what's going to happen is one's going to go in there on the bottom and the other one in here on the top. Now, the other thing it's going to do is I'm going to drill through for the Bellcrank. So I know where the Bellcrank's going to go, so I'm going to mark that now. And I'm going to drill through and it'll easily mount the Bellcrank pin as well. And it'll lock it in place. The other thing it does, it locks the two spars. You got a glue joint here that's connecting them. But what can happen is, you get them butted really well, but you have a weak point here because there's a glue joint here. So anytime you can connect that, it gets rid of that weak point. So I did once have a failure of plywood spar, where I folded the wing on the inboard side. But I think that's because the hole got drilled a little bit too close, the lightning hole a little bit too close to the edge, and a couple hard landings broke loose. But what I'm doing here is bulletproof. It just adds belts and suspenders. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna drill that out, and then we'll be just about ready to glue this in. Now, using Howard Rush's program, I was able to lay out where the Bellcrank's going to go, and it's going to go 15/16 from the center. So we're gonna go drill a 1/8 hole through this tube. And again, this will hold the bell crank in from moving side to side. It ain't going nowhere after this. All right, so I'll set up and drill that in a second. The other thing I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to hold this in place here. Inch and 3/8, I think. Inch and a quarter, a little less than an inch and a quarter, an inch and 3/16. So I just cut a little small balsa block just to hold that apart like that on both sides equally. So when it goes in, it kind of stays. It doesn't go down or up. Um, I'm using a piece of 1/4 inch, but the grain is going to be vertical. So that's what I'm looking for, vertical grain here. Um, Let me mark this. Probably only, it doesn't need to be much here. Well, like 1/2 an inch is more than enough. I said inch and 3/16. Now the trick is you want them both exactly the same size. All right, so what I'm gonna do, bottom one, hold on, top. Top. I'm just using some Scotch tape here to hold this together. This is just to test fit it. All right, that's just kind of setting up like that. And we're just going to test fit it in. Make sure we got plenty of clearance on everything. Just hit. Like I said, I'm just using that piece of balsa as a spacer. It just kind of keep the distance I want. So there we go, perfectly on the mark. Now we're going to set the other side up here. So we got it on the inboard side. Now we're going to push it into the outboard side, see how the alignment works. Okay. Making sure everything can be aligned. Just try fitting all this in. Okay. Perfect fit up there. Now what I'm going to do is just tight down the side. Yes. So what I like to do is look down the trailing edge from the side just to make sure it's parallel, which it is. The other thing you do is you can take a straight edge and put it on the thing, make sure that when you glue it together, it doesn't move around. So even check down the front, it looks all nice and straight. Okay. So now what we got to do is we got to fit up the bell crank. We got to drill for the bell crank, fit it up. And I'm very happy with the fit up there. Nice and snug. It goes right up against the spars. This is going to add a tremendous amount of rigidity to the for minimal weight, and it'll hold the bell crank in. So probably only a little bit more than the typical bell crank support that you put in, usually 1/8 inch plywood most people use. Let me drill this, and then we'll look to start dry fitting up the bell crank. All right, so I drilled it off camera. Now what we're going to do, we're going to line these up, top, bottom. I have it over a piece of wax paper. I'm just going to tack it with the end cloud. Just tacking glue in it. Um, All right, so now what I gotta do is I have to cut off the bell crank here to slide it in. I'm just making a mark for the bell crank. Um, all right, now I'm gonna try to cut the bell crank in. So I like to use wheel collars. Probably don't in this case. I probably could use tube. First things first, let's see how the alignment goes here. All right, gotta open up that. I gotta clean up that one hole a little bit. Let me open up the drill press. All right, so I just cleaned up the hole. I want to make sure the pin goes right through. Just double check something here. What I'm not happy about, it may be okay. Just put that back in. Now just tack it back in. I gotta open this one. All right, here's what we're gonna do. All right. I use wheel collars to hold it height wise in place. Now I got one in. Now what you want to do is Now, I'm going to just set it in the middle. Okay. So there we go. We're about in the middle. And we can always push this up and down a little bit. Oh, let's take that close one. The 1 inch right in the middle, 2 inches long. Now, just going to stick the lead outs in here. But sometimes you can get lucky and the lead outs will go all the way through. Oh, I got to dab the glue. Let me take care of that right now. All right, so there was a little dab of epoxy that was sitting right up on the mount that probably would have got the lead outs or rubbed the lead out. So what I did was I took a piece of tube in there and pushed it off. And then grabbed it with a pair of pliers. All right, so now we're gonna feed the lead outs in. And the trick is these lead outs are really long. So I got the, yes, got the root. Now, sometimes you can get lucky. And they'll go right out. But if not, I got a trick for it. All right, I'll show you the trick now. So I do is grab a rod. This happens to be a 39 thousandths rod. And I stick it through the lead out. All right, comes out the other end. Now, take some tape. I get the end of the lead out here. And I just pull it through. All right, that's one. Same process for the other one. Same deal, just pull it back to it. There you go. Good little trick to help get the lead out there and out. Put this back in the bag. All right. All right. So now we'll pull it through. And what I'm doing is just dry fitting this in. I still got to cut out the slide into the right spot. I just wanted to see how it fits in here. And now what I'm going to do is check just so you can see it. Really just looking to see if it's in the center on both sides here. I mean, it looks like it's in the center. That's in the center. Okay. So the initial dry fit is good. What I do need to do is cut off the bottom on one side here. But what I'm going to do is got to cut off the bottom. Actually, all I got to do is push the rod up and cut the top off. So I want to shorten this. All right, so let me pull it out and I'll shorten it to the dimensions I want. This is all just going along for the ride. All right, so we're going to just pull it out. We're going to shorten that Bellcrank post to work. Take only about 1/4 of an inch up on both sides. So I'll cut this off camera. All right, so I shortened the rod a little bit. The other thing I'm doing is add some washers. So between the washers, between the Bellcrank bushing and the wheel collars, just a little bit extra. All right, now. What you got is a wheel collar first. Washer. Bellcrank. I had the washer just to give it something else to move on, and to move with it. Just a sliding surface, really, is what I'll say. Come on. See something. No. There we go. Now the last wheel collar. I'm going to set it back in the middle here. You want to make sure that this is really free. Set it in the middle. So what I'm going to do is just tack glue this in. So just things I'm not happy with, I can break it free. The other thing you got to do is you're going to have to lube this thing up. I use any type of oil you can get your hands on. That's that's motor bearing oil or electric motors. Works well, but anything you can get in there is going to help it. Hmm. All right, so I got to make it a little bit lower. Why I only tack it. So that's where it's going to go. Now I got to raise it up. And again, just a tack. So I get it exactly where I want. I'm going to tighten it up. And pause. I will put a dab of epoxy on it so these collars don't move. Now, just double check it. Pretty good. I cut out for that now. So what I'm going to do is cut out for Bellcrank. All you do is cut an 8-inch slot here to the depth you want it to be. Okay. Flip it over on this side. This can be bigger. So I save these pieces. It's not glue them back in, just because I don't know. We slide this in now. Check to make sure we're sitting in the middle here. Yes. Yes. Okay. So now what I want to do is check. I'm going to take a look in before I glue anything here. What I want to do is be able to see if the lead outs rub anywhere in here. Take a good look down at, are you catching on anything? Like if I go into the last hole, all the way back, if I go all the way back, am I into the? I'm pretty good. Because the one thing you don't want to do is catch on the foam. So what I'll do is actually pull it now as much as I can. So I'm pretty good there. So now, what we got to do is mark for where the push rod's going to come out. So it's going to come out right at about the middle. And now, so I know about the height of the push rod coming up here. I'll be right about there somewhere. To do that on both sides. I'll cut off one side first, then we'll fit up the outboard side. Cut that. Cutting this out. I mean, this don't really matter. Like it gets covered by the fuse, but I always like it to look nice. But it's not as critical. And here is no strength anyway. Right back here, this is just going along for the ride for the most part. And you just want to make sure you're not rubbing on anything different. Now, let's move some stuff out of the way. Just mask the hole. I'll just cut out the other side. Just make sure we got enough cut at the bottom. Want to take a little bit more out of the bottom. So that's pretty good. So I'm just measuring up the height of the horn here. All right, a little bit more I'll take out just to make sure of that. Again, the part of the wing sees no stress. So I probably could have cut it out a little less up here, but that's okay. So now we got a good fit up here. 'I'm just trying to get all the loose tire foam out. Nothing worse than a wing clean, you get stuff coming out of it. It drives me crazy. 20 of movement. Now we're gonna glue up these plates. Gonna glue in the Bellcrank plate um, on this side first. There's also I got some small plywood stops on the inside because my concern was there's a lightning hole where this thing ends. See it or not, there's a lightning hole in there, and I wanted to bridge across there because I'm just afraid that there comes a stress point there where these end. So this is just a little bit extra. So yeah, so we're ready to start gluing. So here's oil up the bearings here. tighten these up. So what I do is I'm using some JB Weld here, a little JB Weld here and a little JB Weld there, just to keep those wheel collars from moving. And I will use JB Weld on carbon. The JB Weld don't go nowhere. And then I'll use regular epoxy to get these bouncing. So actually, I'll use the carbon epoxy. I'm going to use the DP420 for the carbon parts, and I'm going to use the DP100 for the foam and everything else. All right. We'll get that ready to go in a second. I got to get some wax paper, so I'll be right back. All right, so I got a small amount of JB Weld. I'm going to mix up. Just makes it real good. This stuff is really good. It's a little heavy though if you need it to, so you don't use it for everything. This stuff will attach steel to carbon, you name it. Now, I've got a little bit on the rod here. So all I'm doing, we're just putting just some on the wheel collar. This is really just to keep the wheel collar from moving. What I'm doing is I'm just dabbing it. The idea is I put JB Weld on the bolt, hold the push rod in, it's extra good insurance. So now, we're going with the JB Weld. Right, now for the fun, let me get some rubber gloves. I can't stand epoxy on my hands. I don't know why. It never feels like it comes off. So I do want to get a couple pictures of this too. What we're gonna do I'll have to get it on the lead outs. So what I gotta do is I gotta use the other adhesive. So I'll do this quick. All right, now what I'm doing, putting where the plywood goes. Okay, that's good. Now, do the other side quick. So I can fish gums again. Again, these are just like extra. I'm just worried about this is a lightning hole right there, and some of them parts end. Now, switch it on again. So what I want to do is put some on the top here. And this surface that goes onto the foam. Now, carefully when getting a lot of glue on myself here. Once we get some Q-tips to wipe the excess off. The one thing you don't want to do is have lips get on the bell crank and freeze it up. What I'm doing is taking all the excess. Just making sure nothing's going to drip down here. right? Now, pretty much done with this stuff. Okay. Now back to the other stuff. Now, what we're gonna do, you're gonna take the cradle together to hold it. All right, here we go. Now, before we squeeze this together, just making sure you have all the surface with glue on it. And you don't want an overabundance of it, but you just want to make sure you got a good coating. What I'll do is line this off side of the jig. And now, okay, so what we do is we're going to take the bottom. We're going to close the front a little bit. All right, so now, what we do is take a straight edge. Good. Now I just got to close that gap. So now look down it. Nice and straight. All right. Now this is going to have to dry for a little while. So I'm going to go on this. All right. So pretty much, they put the Bellcrank in, and the halves, and just making sure it moves nice and smooth, good. So the other thing is, once we get the horn on, we'll make sure there's no bindings. It looks like I can take a little bit more out here on the side, which we'll do as we go along here. But that's pretty much it today. So hopefully you got something out of it. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends. The more we share, the better we are. So thanks everyone. See you next time.